People think grandmothers are quiet, soft, harmless. But they forget something very important. Grandmothers have lived long lives. They've seen good and evil. They survived years of pain and strength. And when someone hurts their family, there is nothing more dangerous. This story is about a grandmother named Martha Green and the secret she kept buried for 40 years. A secret that would come back, not to haunt her, but to give her the chance for the most powerful revenge she ever imagined.
The old farmhouse stood at the edge of Hayfield Town. Wind always carried the smell of soil, the distant hum of tractors, and the soft rustle of the wheat fields. And inside the house lived Martha Green, 79 years old, a quiet silver-haired woman who loved gardening, baking, and listening to old classical songs on her radio. And the star of her life, Ava, 17 years old, her granddaughter, smart, artistic, soft-spoken, the girl who brought light into her grandmother's lonely home. Ava had lived with Martha ever since her mother, Martha's daughter, passed away unexpectedly 6 years earlier. They were all each other had, and their little world felt peaceful, safe, protected, until the night Ava came home late, shaking, pale, eyes full of terror.
"Sweetheart, what happened?" Martha asked gently, reaching for her hand. Ava pulled away, not out of anger, but fear. "I can't tell you, Grandma," she whispered. "He'll hurt you." Martha froze. "He?" Martha's heart clenched. Who was he? A boyfriend? A stranger? Someone from school? Ava backed into her room and shut the door quietly. Martha walked to the living room, sat in her rocking chair, and stared at the shadows on the walls. Her fingers trembled. Her voice cracked. "He won't hurt me, baby," she whispered to herself. "Not again." But she said nothing more. Not yet, because she recognized that fear in Ava's eyes. She had seen it decades ago in her own reflection. A few days later, the truth began showing itself. A black SUV parked outside the farmhouse, engine running, windows tinted. A figure inside, watching, waiting. Ava stared at it through the curtains, frozen. Martha stepped beside her, wiping her hands with her apron. "Is that him?" she asked. Ava swallowed hard. Her silence was the answer. The SUV drove away when Martha stepped outside. That told her everything she needed to know. Whoever this man was, he didn't fear Ava. He didn't fear the law. He feared her, an old woman. That meant he knew exactly what he was doing. Predators always underestimate the quiet ones. Martha watched the taillights fade, and for the first time in years, she felt the past knocking on her door. The past she had buried, the past she had escaped. That night, Ava finally broke. They were washing dishes together, the warm water steaming in the cold kitchen. "Grandma, I didn't tell you everything," Ava whispered. Martha kept rinsing the plates. "I know, sweetheart, and you'll tell me when you're ready." Ava's eyes filled with tears. It's not just a boy at school." Martha stopped. Ava's voice trembled. "He's 26. Silence. "He told me we're meant to be together. He waits outside school. He said if I ever tell anyone, he'll ruin your life. He said he knows things about you,
Things from the past. Martha slowly placed the plate on the counter. Her voice lowered. What does he know? Ava wiped her face with the back of her sleeve. He said your real name isn't Martha Green. Martha's blood turned cold. Her real name, her real life, her real past. How could he know? Unless, no, impossible. It had been 40 years. But some monsters don't die. They just find different shadows to hide in. Ava cried harder. He said you used to live in another state with another family, and that something horrible happened. He said you ran away and changed your identity. Martha closed her eyes. That was true, every word. But how did he know? Ava whispered, Grandma, who were you before Martha Green? Martha took a long breath, steadying herself. She looked straight into her granddaughter's trembling eyes and said, My name was Margaret Hale. Ava froze. I changed it to protect myself and to protect the child I lost. Ava stepped back. Lost? Martha placed her trembling hand over Ava's, and with a haunting calmness she said, Ava, the man hunting you is the son of the monster I escaped. Ava's breath shattered. Our past, Martha whispered, voice cracking, has come back for revenge. But he doesn't know that I've been waiting 40 years to finish what began.
Ava stood frozen in the dim kitchen, her hands trembling against the sink edge. Margaret Hale, she whispered. Hearing her grandmother's real name felt like hearing a secret the world wasn't allowed to know. Margaret, looked older in that moment, but not weaker. Older like an ancient tree, full of rings, full of storms survived. Ava swallowed. What happened to you? Martha pulled out a chair and sat down slowly, the wooden legs creaking under the weight of 40 years of memory. Sit with me, Ava. You deserve the whole truth. Ava sat beside her, fingers intertwined like a child holding onto a lifeline. Martha stared at the flickering stove light. When I was your age, I wasn't safe either. Her voice dropped lower. There was a man named Douglas Hale, your blood relative, my husband. Ava's eyes widened. Your husband? A violent, cruel man. A man who believed he owned me, who believed fear was love. Martha's voice quivered only slightly. He kept me trapped for years, until one night I escaped. But I was pregnant. The child didn't survive the journey. Ava gasped softly, covering her mouth. I buried my old life. I changed my name, moved across states, and for decades I lived quietly. Ava's voice cracked. And the man following me, the one in the SUV, he's Douglas's son, Martha said coldly. From another woman he abused after I ran. Ava's breath hitched. But why is he after you, or me? Martha leaned back, her eyes sharp. Because Douglas died last year in prison, and before he died, he told his son the truth. He told him that the woman who ruined his life, the woman who escaped, is still alive. Ava whispered, He came to finish what his father started? No, Martha turned her voice to steel. He came to take revenge on me by taking you. Ava shook her head, tears forming again. But I barely know him. Why me? Because you're young, Martha answered.
because he learned all the ways his father controlled the women in his life, and because he thinks hurting you will break me. Ava collapsed into her grandmother's arms. I'm scared, Grandma. Martha stroked her back gently. I know, sweetheart, but you're not alone and you're not weak. Ava whispered through tears. He said he'd ruin your life if I told anyone. He even said he'd dig up your past. Martha chuckled bitterly. He thinks my past is my weakness, but he doesn't know it's my weapon. Ava pulled back slightly, confused. What do you mean? Martha's eyes grew darker, a kind of calm fury Ava had never seen before. If he wants to bring up what happened back then, she whispered, I'll make sure he regrets ever digging.
The next morning, they tried to live normally. Martha fed the chickens. Ava helped hang laundry on the line, but both kept glancing toward the road. At noon, they heard it again. The SUV, slow, predatory, circling. Ava froze, clutching the damp cloth in her hand. Martha stood tall on the porch, staring at the vehicle with unblinking eyes. Through the tinted window, a silhouette watched them. Ava whispered, Grandma, don't. But Martha stepped off the porch, walking straight toward the road, chin lifted. The SUV stopped. The window rolled down halfway. A man in his late 20s stared at her. Sharp jaw, cold eyes, a face full of arrogance inherited from the father Martha once escaped. So, he said with a smirk, you are Margaret Hale. Ava's breath caught in her throat. Martha didn't flinch. And you're Douglas Hale, Jr. He nodded proudly. I've been waiting to meet you. Martha replied calmly, your father taught you to fear strong women. That's why you're here. His smirk vanished. You took everything from him. You ran. You destroyed our family. Your father destroyed his own family. I survived. He leaned slightly out the window and whispered, and she will belong to me. Ava stumbled back, heart pounding. Martha stepped forward, eyes burning. You come near her again, her voice steady as a blade, and you'll learn why I survived your father. The SUV sped away, tires kicking dust across the field. Ava ran to Martha, shaking. Grandma, we should call the police. No, Martha said, gripping her shoulders gently. Not yet. Why not? He's dangerous. Sweetheart, Martha whispered, he has no criminal record, no charges, no witnesses. But if we go to the police now, he'll disappear before they even file paperwork, and he'll come back with a vengeance. Ava swallowed hard. So what do we do? Martha stared at the road where the SUV disappeared. We make him think, she dropped her voice to a chilling whisper, that he's hunting us. A beat. Then she finished, when in reality, we're hunting him. Inside her bedroom, Martha pulled out an old wooden chest from beneath her bed. Ava watched nervously. The box was heavy, carved with initials, M.H., Margaret Hale. Ava frowned. What's in there? Martha opened it. Inside was an old revolver, newspaper clippings, court documents, a stack of photographs, and a worn leather journal with pages sticking out. Ava stared, stunned. Grandma, what is all this?
Martha ran her hand over the items, like touching old scars. My life, she said quietly. The truth, the pain, the evidence. Ava picked up a newspaper clipping. Local woman escapes violent husband. Authorities search for missing Margaret Hale. Ava felt her legs weaken. Grandma, this is everything I needed to survive, Martha said, and everything we need now. Ava looked confused. But how will this help us with him? Martha looked up slowly. Because Douglas Jr. thinks he knows my history. She tapped the box. But he doesn't know what I kept. She closed the lid gently. This is how we end him. Ava's heart pounded. Grandma, what are you planning? Martha stood tall, the years falling off her like dust. I'm planning, she whispered, to do what I should have done to his father a long time ago. Ava swallowed hard. The grandmother she knew, soft, kind, gentle, was still there, but next to her stood someone else, a survivor, a strategist, a woman who had outrun the devil once and was ready to face his son.
That night, the farmhouse was silent except for the ticking of the old wall clock. Ava sat on the couch, hugging her knees, while Martha laid the contents of her wooden chest across the table. Old documents, photos, maps of a town from decades ago, a revolver with a worn handle. Ava watched anxiously. Grandma, why do you still have all these? Why didn't you get rid of them? Martha didn't lift her eyes. Because the past never stays buried, Ava. It waits. And someday you might need the proof to fight back. She unfolded a faded court document. This is the restraining order I filed against Douglas Hale in 1984. He violated it 10 times. The police ignored me. The judge dismissed half the cases. Ava frowned. That's horrible. Yes, Martha whispered, and now his son thinks he can do the same to you. Ava's breath hitched. But he doesn't know something important, Martha said, leaning back. What? That I learned from every mistake I made, and I will not make them again. Ava hesitated. Grandma, what exactly are you planning to do? Martha reached into her chest and pulled out a small metal box. Inside were a burner phone, a tiny digital voice recorder, a folded map of Hayfield, keys to an old storage unit, and a small flash drive. Ava stared in disbelief. Where did you get all this? Martha smiled gently. From a life before you were born. She spread the map across the table. There are 3 routes he uses to come to our home. She pointed with a pen. He always approaches from the west road. He circles the wheat field. He parks near the old oak tree. Ava blinked. You noticed all that? A woman who survived your grandfather always notices patterns. She circled the oak tree with her pen. This is where he thinks he's controlling the narrative, where he thinks he's hidden. Ava's voice trembled. So what do we do? Martha lowered her voice. We use his confidence against him.
The next morning, Martha awoke Ava before sunrise. Sweetheart, we have work to do. Ava rubbed her eyes. What kind of work? Martha handed her a pair of gloves and a small shovel. We're going outside. They walked quietly to the old oak tree near the dirt road, the one where Douglas Jr. always parked. Ava whispered nervously, "What are we doing here?" Martha knelt down and began digging a small hole near the roots. "This is where he feels safe," she said. "So this is where his downfall begins." She placed a tiny, waterproof case in the hole. Ava frowned. "What's inside?" "GPS tracker," Martha said, "and a voice recorder." Ava's eyes widened. "Grandma, that's kind of illegal." Martha smirked. "So is stalking a minor. So is intimidation. So is threatening a 79-year-old woman." Ava fell silent. Martha continued, "The law failed me once, but it won't fail you. Not if we gather enough proof." She covered the hole gently. "When he steps out of his car or walks near the tree, his voice, his threats will be recorded." Ava swallowed. "So this is our first trap?" "Yes," Martha said, brushing dirt off her hands, "and not the last." That afternoon, Ava was drawing in her room when she heard the familiar sound. An engine. Slow. Predatory. She ran to the window. The SUV was back. Ava's heart pounded so hard she could hear it in her ears. "Grandma," she whispered. Martha stepped beside her. "He's early." The SUV stopped right near the oak tree, exactly where they planted the recorder. Ava held her breath. Douglas Jr. stepped out. Tall, cold, arrogant. He walked toward the tree. Is he talking?" Ava whispered. Martha leaned closer. He was on the phone, pacing near the oak tree. Martha narrowed her eyes. Ava strained her ears, but they couldn't hear him from inside the house. But the recorder could. "What do you think he's saying?" Ava asked in a whisper. Martha's jaw tightened. "If he is anything like his father, he's threatening someone."
Douglas Jr. didn't drive away immediately this time. He stepped back into the SUV. Then a text message came to Ava's phone. Her hands shook as she opened it. Unknown number. You can't hide behind her forever. Ava's heart dropped. Then another. That evening, Martha grabbed her keys. "Ava, get your coat. We're going." Ava frowned. "Where?" "To the storage unit." The drive was silent, the sky turning purple as the sun set. They arrived at a row of metal storage units on the outskirts of town. Martha unlocked unit number 14. The heavy door rolled up. Inside were stacks of old boxes, a filing cabinet, a metal chest, a locked safe, and dusty evidence boards with names, dates, and photos. Ava gasped. "Grandma, what is this?" Martha stepped inside. "This is everything I gathered when I built the case against your grandfather. Every witness statement, every letter, every threat, every lie he told. Everything they ignored." Ava stepped closer, speechless. Martha turned to her. "And now, Ava?"
Her voice hardened like iron. "We are going to build a case against his son." Ava stared at her grandmother, not afraid, but awed. "Grandma, you're incredible." Martha shook her head. "No, sweetheart. I'm just a woman who refuses to let history repeat itself." Ava whispered, "So what's our next move?" Martha opened the safe. Inside was a folder labeled Douglas Hale, Legacy of Violence. Martha handed it to Ava. "We are going to destroy the last piece of that legacy." A beat. Then Martha said the words that set the revenge in motion. "Ava, it's time for him to become the hunted." Ava held the folder labeled Douglas Hale, Legacy of Violence with trembling hands. What is inside this?" Martha exhaled slowly, as if preparing herself to revisit a grave she buried long ago. "Everything the world refused to believe," she said quietly. "My records, his crimes, the truth." Ava opened it gently. Inside were photos of bruises, hospital reports, police notes with words scribbled like lack of evidence, a doctor's report describing a miscarriage, witness statements from neighbors, a restraining order with Douglas Hale's signature, and a handwritten letter full of threats. Ava's eyes welled with tears. "Grandma, you went through all this alone?" Martha placed a hand on her shoulder. "I survived it, and now I will make sure you don't have to survive what I did." Ava looked up, her voice breaking. "How did you escape him?" Martha paused. "I didn't escape. I outsmarted him. And now," she pointed to the folder, "these documents will expose his son, too. Their sickness, their legacy." Ava swallowed hard. "Then what's our next move?" Martha gave a small, grim smile. "We make him reveal his true self publicly, and we trap him in his own arrogance." The next morning, Martha took Ava to the town market, trying to restore a sense of normalcy. But normalcy was gone. As they walked past the fruit stands, Martha sensed something, a shadow, a presence. She turned around slowly. Douglas Jr. was standing across the street, not hiding, not pretending, staring straight at them with a smile carved from his father's darkness. Ava gasped. "Grandma!" "Don't look away," Martha whispered. "He wants fear. Don't give it to him." Douglas crossed the street slowly, hands in his pockets. "Morning, Margaret." The name dripped from his mouth like poison. Ava stepped backward instinctively. Martha remained still. "How dare you come here?" she asked calmly. He smirked. "This is a public place. I'm not doing anything wrong." "You're stalking a minor." He shrugged. "No proof." Martha narrowed her eyes. He didn't know she had already started gathering proof. Ava mustered courage. "Stay away from us." Douglas leaned close to her, too close, until Martha stepped between them. "You touch her again," Martha said quietly, "and I will end you." Douglas chuckled. "You ended my father's life? Isn't that enough revenge?" Martha's jaw tightened. "He ended his own life." Douglas leaned in, whispering, "And I'm going to take yours, piece by piece." Ava's breath hitched.
Martha didn't blink. You're just like him, and just like him, you will fall. Douglas smirked and walked away, but not before turning back and saying, I'll see you tonight. Ava's face drained of color. Grandma, what does he mean? Martha lifted her chin. He thinks fear is a weapon, but fear is how you predict a monster's next move.
Back home, Martha locked every door and window. They sat at the kitchen table, the tension thick enough to taste. Grandma, he said tonight, what if... Martha raised a hand gently. Sweetheart, listen to me. Ava waited, eyes wide. That man doesn't want to kill anyone. Not yet. Ava frowned. What do you mean? He wants control. He wants fear. He wants you to feel helpless, the same way his father made me feel. Ava clenched her fists. I won't let him ruin our life. And I won't let him touch you, Martha said. But we must be one step ahead. She opened her phone. On the burner line. She played the audio recorded from the oak tree. Douglas Jr.'s voice came through muffled. I'll handle the girl. Tonight, she won't defy me again. Ava froze. Martha pressed pause. This is what we need, she said. Proof of intent. Ava shivered. But he's coming here tonight. Martha's expression hardened. Yes. She stood up and grabbed the revolver from the wooden chest. Ava's breath cracked. Grandma, are you going to fight him? Martha checked the chamber. Old, but functional. No, not unless I have to. Then what's the plan? Martha looked out the window toward the road. The plan is to make him believe we're scared, hiding, vulnerable. Ava blinked. But we're not. No, sweetheart. She placed a hand on Ava's cheek. We're prepared. At sunset, Ava's phone buzzed. Her heart leapt as she checked the screen. Unknown number. Martha nodded. Answer. Put it on speaker. Ava's fingers trembled as she tapped the call. Hello, she whispered. Douglas Jr.'s voice was oily, confident, in control. Little Ava, are you home? Ava couldn't speak. Martha mouthed. Yes. Yes, Ava said shakily. Good, because I'm close. Ava's breath hitched. Martha didn't react. And your grandmother? Douglas asked. Is she ready to face the truth? Martha leaned forward. What truth? Douglas chuckled. The truth that this family belongs to us. What my father started, I'll finish. Martha's expression sharpened like a knife. Douglas lowered his voice. I'll be there soon. A pause. Don't try anything stupid. The call ended. Ava collapsed into a chair. Grandma, what do we do? He's coming here. Martha put her hand over Ava's shaking hands. Sweetheart, tonight is the night everything changes. Martha led Ava to the attic. Dusty, dark, full of old memories. Why are we here? Ava whispered. Martha pointed to a small window overlooking the road. This is where you'll hide. Ava's eyes filled with fear. No, I'm not leaving you alone. Martha cupped her face gently. You won't leave me. You'll watch. You'll record everything he says, everything he does.
But what about you? Martha gave her a steady look. I will meet him not as Martha Green, but as Margaret Hale. Ava's breath cracked. Grandma! Martha kissed her forehead. You're the reason I survived him. You're the reason I'm brave. Ava hugged her tightly as if it might be the last time. Martha held her close. When this is over, you'll never fear another man in your life. I promise you. Ava climbed into the attic's shadow. Martha closed the door gently. And then, knock, knock, knock. Ava's blood ran cold. Douglas Jr. had arrived.
Knock, knock, knock. The sound echoed through the old farmhouse like a death sentence. Ava held her breath in the attic, her phone camera pointed toward the front yard through the small window. Her hands shook so hard she had to hold the phone with both hands. Below her, Martha walked to the door with calm, steady steps. She didn't tremble. She didn't hesitate. When she opened the door, Douglas Jr. stood there, tall, confident, hands in his pockets, a smirk carved into his face like he owned the world. "Good evening, Margaret," he said softly. Martha's voice was cold steel. "You don't have permission to be here." He shrugged casually. "I don't need permission. I just came to collect what's mine." Martha raised an eyebrow. And what exactly do you think that is?" He leaned in slightly. "The girl, Ava. She's coming with me." Ava nearly screamed from the attic. Her hand covered her mouth to remain silent. Martha stayed still. "She doesn't belong to you. She never did." Douglas smirked. "Your husband said you used to be more obedient." Martha's heart clenched, but she didn't show a single flicker of emotion. Instead, she stepped forward. "You are nothing like your father. You're weaker than he ever was." Douglas's face twitched, the first crack in his confidence.
From the attic window, Ava recorded the entire exchange. Douglas stepped closer to Martha. "You've poisoned her against me," he snarled. "No," Martha replied. "You've revealed yourself." He gritted his teeth. "I'm not leaving without her." Martha held her ground. "I'm not letting you take her." Douglas leaned close enough that Ava could see his breath from above. Then he whispered, "I know what you did. I know how you escaped my father. I know the lies you told, and I'll expose you." Martha didn't blink. "Yes," she said, "you will. And I want you to." Douglas stepped back, confused. "What?" Martha folded her arms. "Go ahead. Tell everyone. Tell the police I was abused. Tell them your father was a criminal." Douglas froze, realizing the trap. Ava zoomed in from the attic, capturing every second. Martha finished. "Because the moment you open your mouth, I open mine." She lifted her chin. "And I have proof. Proof of everything. Proof of your father, and now proof of you." Douglas's jaw tightened. "I'm not afraid of you." "You should be," she whispered. Douglas took one step closer, lowering his voice so only Martha could hear, or so he thought. But Ava caught every word from the attic. "You think hiding behind the past will save you?" Douglas hissed. "You think your little farm will protect you?" Martha stared up at him. "You're not here for Ava," she said quietly. You're here to finish your father's battle." Douglas smiled slowly. "And what a beautiful opportunity it is. You're weak now, old, alone." Martha's eyes darkened. "I'm not alone." Douglas scoffed. "You think anyone will believe you? You think you can fight me?" Martha whispered, "I already am." Douglas stepped back, sizing her up like prey. Then he said the words that made Ava's blood run cold. "Maybe I should burn this place down, start with your memories, then take the girl." Ava nearly dropped her phone. Martha's voice snapped like a whip. "Do it! Just give me the excuse." Douglas froze again. This wasn't the reaction he expected. Martha leaned forward. "Cowards like you always need fear, but you don't scare me." Her voice sharpened. "And you cannot control what you don't scare." Douglas clenched his fists. "You'll regret this." "No," Martha answered softly. "You will."
Douglas took a breath, long, deep, as if trying to regain dominance. Then he stepped even closer, his voice low and threatening. "If you get in my way, I swear, Margaret, I will lay you next to your daughter." Ava's scream choked in her throat as she recorded. Martha's face changed, the quiet grief of a woman who had buried her child. She whispered, "You leave my daughter's memory out of your mouth." Douglas laughed. "I control the girl now," he said. "She listens to me." Martha replied softly, "You haven't learned anything about me." Douglas raised an eyebrow. "Such as?" Martha stepped forward until her face was inches from his. "I always win." A flicker of uncertainty crossed Douglas's expression. This old woman, the one he expected to be trembling, was not afraid of him, not even a little.
Just then, headlights appeared down the road. Douglas turned sharply. A pickup truck pulled into the property. It was Tom Jenkins, their neighbor, mid-40s, strong build, weathered face, a man who minded his business but cared deeply about Martha. Douglas stepped back quickly. Tom rolled down his window. "Martha, everything okay?" Douglas stiffened. Martha smiled. "Yes, Tom, everything is fine. This man was just leaving." Douglas glared at her. Tom stared at Douglas with narrowed eyes. Didn't look like he was invited. Martha kept her gaze locked on Douglas. No, he wasn't. Douglas clenched his jaw. He knew he couldn't escalate with another witness present. He stepped backward toward his SUV. "This isn't over," he hissed. Martha replied, "It ends soon." He climbed into his car and sped off, tires tearing the gravel. Ava collapsed in relief in the attic, hands shaking. Tom stepped out of his truck. "Martha, who was that man?" Martha steadied herself. "Tom, I need your help." Tom nodded instantly. "Anything." Martha's voice turned serious. "That man is dangerous. He's after Ava, and I'm going to stop him." Tom blinked. "Martha, are you sure you want to handle this alone?" She shook her head. "I'm done being alone." Later, after Tom left, Martha found Ava in the attic. The girl rushed forward, hugging her tightly. Grandma, I was so scared. It's over for tonight, Martha said softly, stroking her hair. But it isn't finished. Ava pulled back. Grandma, I recorded everything, every threat, every word. Martha smiled, sad, proud, determined. Good. That recording might save us. Ava wiped her eyes. What now? Martha inhaled slowly. Now we prepare. Ava whispered. For what? Martha looked out the attic window at the long, dark road.
The sun rose slowly over the fields, painting the farmhouse in pale gold. But inside, neither Martha nor Ava slept. Ava sat at the kitchen table, sipping cold tea with shaking hands. Martha stood by the window, watching the road as if expecting Douglas Jr. to appear again. He didn't. The silence felt even worse. Ava whispered, "Grandma, do you think he'll come back today?" Martha answered without turning from the window. "He won't come in daylight. Predators like him want darkness." Ava swallowed hard. "So what do we do until then?" Martha finally turned to her, face calm but fierce. "We get ahead of him."
Around noon, a cruiser rolled up the driveway. Sheriff Dalton, a heavy-set man in his 50s who had known Martha for years, stepped out. Martha? Ava? Everything all right? Martha exchanged a look with Ava before stepping onto the porch. Sheriff Dalton sighed. Got a call this morning. Someone reported a suspicious SUV near the school last night. Ava's fingers tightened around her cup. Martha kept her face steady. Sheriff, there's a man harassing my granddaughter. Dalton frowned. You got a name? Douglas Hale, Jr. Dalton nearly choked on air. Hale? As in Douglas Hale? The one we had on file a long time ago? Martha nodded. Dalton shifted uncomfortably. Martha, that family is trouble. You need to let us handle this. Martha stepped closer, voice calm but cutting. I tried that once, Sheriff. Dalton swallowed. Ava whispered, We have recordings. Dalton glanced between them. Recordings of what? Martha's voice sharpened. Threats? Stalking? Admitting he's coming after Ava. Dalton's face tightened. Let me hear it. Martha shook her head. Not yet. Not until we have the full picture. Dalton looked frustrated. Martha, this is dangerous. I know, Martha replied. That's why I'm being careful. Dalton sighed, rubbing his forehead. You call me the moment he shows up again, understand? Martha forced a polite smile. We will. But as the sheriff drove away, Ava whispered, Grandma, why didn't we give him the recording? Martha's eyes hardened. Because once the police get involved, Douglas will run. And if he runs, she looked toward the horizon, he'll come back stronger. Ava shivered. So we need more proof? We need a confession. Something undeniable, something he can't talk his way out of. Ava felt her chest tighten. Grandma, how do we get that? Grandma glanced toward the barn. We make him think he's winning. In the barn, Martha pulled out old tools, ropes, a ladder, and a set of motion sensor lights she hadn't used since the storm of 2009. Ava watched nervously. "Grandma, what is all this?" Martha set the ladder down and pulled out a small black device. "A camera," she said. "Night vision. Motion triggered." Ava blinked. "You have security cameras?" Martha smirked. "I bought them years ago. Never needed them. Until now." She climbed the ladder and installed one under the overhang of the barn roof, then another near the chicken coop, another facing the porch, and another near the oak tree. Ava's jaw dropped. "Grandma, this is like a movie." Martha climbed down and dusted her hands. "No, sweetheart, this is survival." Ava pointed to the barn. "What about inside?" Martha walked into the barn's shadow, lifting a tarp to reveal a small radio transmitter, a backup generator, and a metal hook suspended from a beam. Ava's eyes widened. "Grandma, what is this?" Martha lowered the hook. "It's a message." "To who?" Martha's eyes went cold. "To Douglas. If he steps into my barn, he'll learn he's not the hunter here." Ava swallowed hard. "What else do we need?" Martha walked toward the house. "Something he wants. Something that will bring him right to us." Ava frowned. "What does he want?" Martha stopped. "Control," she whispered. "He wants to prove he's stronger than us. So we give him the illusion of power, and then we take everything from him." Ava felt a chill travel up her spine. Her grandmother wasn't just planning self-defense. She was planning revenge. That evening, Ava sat on the porch swing, staring at the horizon. Her hands were cold despite the heat. Martha came outside with 2 mugs of hot chocolate. "You're shaking," she said softly. Ava nodded. "I keep hearing his voice. The things he said, the things he threatened." Martha placed a warm hand over Ava's. "I know you're scared." Ava's voice cracked. "I don't want him to hurt you, Grandma." Martha smiled, sad and brave. "He can't hurt me anymore, Ava. I'm not the woman he thinks I am." Ava buried her face in Martha's shoulder. "I'm tired of being scared." Martha stroked her hair. "You won't be scared forever. Fear will become strength. I'll teach you." Ava wiped her tears. "How?" Martha looked out at the darkening field. "By showing you the truth about your grandfather, about their family, about the darkness they passed down." Ava hesitated. Why didn't you ever tell me all of this before?" Martha exhaled. "Because some stories are too heavy for a child. But you're not a child anymore." Ava nodded slowly. "So, what's next?" Martha's eyes sharpened. "We wait." The night settled over the farmhouse like a blanket of shadows. Crickets chirped. Wind whispered through the trees. And then, crunch, crunch, crunch. Footsteps. Ava stiffened in her bed. She sat up, heart hammering. Downstairs, Martha's eyes snapped open. She slid out of bed silently and reached for the revolver. Ava texted quietly. "Grandma, did you hear that?" Her phone vibrated almost instantly. "Martha, stay in your room." Ava slowly peeked through her window. A dark silhouette walked across the yard, straight toward the barn. Ava's voice caught in her throat. "Oh my God!" She recorded everything. Douglas Jr. moved toward the barn door, unaware of the camera hidden above him. He pushed the door open. Inside, it was almost pitch black. He stepped forward. Click. A motion-triggered light flooded the barn with white brightness. Douglas stumbled, shielding his eyes. Ava gasped softly from upstairs as she filmed. Douglas looked around, confused and angry. What the hell? And then he saw it. Hanging in the center of the barn, the metal hook, swinging slightly. Martha stepped out from behind a stack of hay bales, calm, unshaken. Douglas stared at her. "You knew I was coming." "Yes," Martha said. "And now I want you to listen." Douglas sneered. "I don't listen to old." "Shut up," Martha snapped. Douglas froze, startled by her tone. Martha stepped forward slowly, like a predator closing in. "Do you know what that hook is?" she asked quietly. Douglas looked confused. Martha reached up and stopped it from swinging. "My late husband used that hook to store deer carcasses. It held hundreds of pounds of dead weight." Douglas swallowed. "And I kept it," Martha continued, "because I always knew one day I'd need to hang a different kind of predator." Douglas stepped back, face tightening. "This isn't funny." "No," Martha said. "It's justice." The barn door slammed shut behind him. Ava nearly dropped her phone. The barn door slammed shut behind Douglas Jr., the echo bouncing off the wooden walls like a warning. Ava, from her upstairs window, recorded everything with wide, terrified eyes. Inside the barn, Douglas spun around. "Open that door," he snapped. Martha didn't move. "It locks from the outside," she said calmly. His face twisted. "You think this scares me?" "No," Martha replied. "I think it confuses you. Men like you don't do well when they aren't in control." Douglas scoffed, but his eyes darted nervously around the barn. Martha stepped forward, her voice low. "Before you do something stupid, know this barn better than your father ever did." Douglas glared. "My father was a strong man." "Your father was a monster," Martha corrected. "And you're walking in his footsteps." The insult cut through him. He lunged toward her. Martha lifted the revolver instantly. Douglas stopped dead in his tracks. Ava nearly screamed. Douglas raised his hands slowly. "So that's your plan. Shoot me? Go ahead. Kill me like you killed him." Marta's finger rested near the trigger, but she didn't flinch. "I didn't kill your father," she said quietly. "He killed himself with his own violence." Douglas smiled coldly, funny, because he told me a very different story. Marta's jaw clenched, but her voice stayed steady. "He lied, and you believed him." A long silence. Douglas stepped back, pacing. "You know what I think?" he growled. "I think you're bluffing. You don't have the guts to shoot." Marta lowered the gun a fraction, eyes narrowed. "That's where you're wrong, boy." Her voice hardened. "I have nothing left to lose." For the first time since entering the barn, Douglas looked genuinely uncertain. Martha took a deep breath and slowly lowered the revolver to her side, not in surrender, but in confidence. "I don't need to shoot you," she said. "You're going to destroy yourself." Douglas scoffed. "I doubt it."
Martha turned slightly, gesturing toward the small black device sitting on the feed barrel. "Do you know what that is?" she asked. Douglas squinted. "A radio? A phone?" "A live transmitter," Martha said. "Everything you said outside the house, everyone heard it." Douglas tensed. "Liar." Martha smiled. "You threatened to burn my home. You threatened to take Ava. You threatened my life. Do you think anyone will believe you're innocent now?" Douglas's breathing became uneven. "Turn it off," he snapped. "No," Martha replied. "You wanted an audience. Now you have one." Ava recorded all of this, her heart pounding. Douglas's composure was slipping. His breathing quickened. His voice cracked. "Does Ava know? All the terrible things your husband said about you?" Martha stepped closer. "Everything your father ever said was a lie, just like everything you're saying now." Douglas swallowed, caught between fury and fear. Douglas suddenly laughed, a sharp, bitter laugh. "You know what I really want?" he asked, leaning forward. Martha didn't blink. "I want her," he said. "I want Ava. I want to finish what my father started. She belongs to our bloodline." Ava covered her mouth not to scream. Martha's eyes flashed with pure, cold anger. "Your father didn't start anything," she spat. "He terrorized women. He destroyed families. And now you want to wear his sickness like a crown." Douglas grinned. "You can't stop me." Martha leaned in, whispering, "I already have." Douglas blinked in confusion. Martha stepped back and gestured to the corner of the barn. Douglas frowned. "What is that?" Martha didn't smile, but her voice grew sharper. "A pressure alarm," she said. "The moment you walked through that door, every camera on this property started recording." Douglas's eyes widened. "You're bluffing." "No," Martha said calmly. "I'm tired of bluffing. I'm tired of pretending I'm old and harmless. Tonight, I show you who I really am." Douglas's bravado crumbled. "What do you want?" he asked, voice unsteady. "A confession," Martha said. "On camera, in your own words." Douglas laughed weakly. "And why would I confess?" Martha lifted the folder labeled "Legacy of Violence." Douglas froze. "You know what this is. All your father's crimes, the things he admitted, the things he hid." Douglas stepped back slowly. "You think you can threaten me with that?" Martha's voice cut through the barn. "No, Douglas, I'm not threatening you. I'm showing you that your past, your family's past, is about to swallow you." Suddenly, bang! The barn door burst open from outside. Ava gasped. Martha froze. Douglas spun around. Tom Jenkins stormed in with a flashlight and a metal pipe. "Martha, are you all right?" Douglas snarled. "Oh, perfect. A hero." Tom stepped between Martha and Douglas. "You've got 2 seconds to step away from her." Douglas raised his hands mockingly. "Careful, farmer boy. I don't want to hurt you." Tom swung the pipe lightly in his hand. "You can try."
Ava filmed everything, heart pounding so loud she could hear it. Douglas glanced between Martha and Tom, suddenly outnumbered. His confidence flickered. His voice cracked. "This isn't over," he hissed. Martha replied quietly, "It ends when I decide it ends." Douglas stormed out of the barn, slamming the door. Ava nearly collapsed with relief. Tom turned to Martha. "Martha, what have you gotten yourself into?" Martha finally looked tired, truly tired for the first time that night. "Something I should have finished 40 years ago," she whispered. Tom lowered the pipe, concerned. "What do we do now?" Martha straightened slowly. "We prepare for the moment he makes his final mistake."